Okay, good morning, everyone. A similar talk to what we gave last year, but definitely some deviations. Instead of just being the drone talk, we're kind of doing a State of the Union because in the past 12 to 18 months, so much has changed in the drone world. It's crazy. So we're going to talk still some of the similar things about drones in general, but also start looking at the changes in what's happening with drones and how does that affect us and kind of going forward. Also, some of the legal stuff. A lot of legal stuff has changed as well. So about me, I'm Ron. You'll see me around. My daughter's Pixel Cherry. You'll see her around too. I'm a senior security consultant for. We used to be HP, then it was HPE. I think now we're Micro Focus. We'll see who we are tomorrow, but that's what we're rolling with today. So drones in general. When we think about drones, I mean we think about everything from military drones that drop big, large, heavy things on people to, nowadays we really are starting to see them come to play in agriculture. DJI makes a fantastic platform that literally you can load it up with dry fertilizer and literally spray your crops now. So it's really cool stuff that's going on there. Search and rescue, really starting to see that come into play. In the last few earthquakes that's taken place, we really have started to see how drones have come into play to help find people. They can go places people can't. And they're, for lack of better terms, they're disposable. I mean, you take a drone, throw it over there. If I lose a $1,000 craft versus a human, that's a good loss. So, of course, videography. Video is a huge thing, and it's also the major push for drones. I've got a little drone we'll be flying later with the kids. It's called a Unique Breeze. It is one of the fantastic little drones I've ever owned. DJI basically copied it and made their version called the Spark. And the Spark does some different things. It's kind of in its own right. It's really cool. But still, for the money, I don't think you can beat the Breeze. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Agriculture, we just mentioned. Of course, we can build a cantenna, and hack a Wi-Fi network. But it's way more fun to strap a Raspberry Pi with Kali on it to a drone and land it on top of a building and, have some fun there. So, I mean, it's just, so there's lots of hacking implications as well. Is it necessarily the most practical way? No. Is it way more fun? Yes. So that's really, it's not, we don't just do this because we get paid or we like to break stuff. There's also the fun factor. So types of we're focusing this on multi-rotors. When we talk about drones, I've got little wheel drones. I've got all kinds of drones at the house. But really, when we talk about drones nowadays, most of the time we're talking about multi-rotors. Multi-rotors come in multiple configurations. Most of what you see are quads. You'll see some hexarotors. Once you start getting into octorotors or eight props, you're into multi-thousands of dollars. Usually, to be honest, you're looking about 10 grand to really get started when you start looking into octorotors. So that's a bit out of my hobbyist price range, and my wife would kill me if I even attempted to try to do something 10 grand for a drone. So that's kind of that. But in our space, the quads are going to be the rulers of the industry there, and you can actually get some pretty cool tri-rotors too. Typical quadrotor configurations, if we're dealing with quads, come in what's called an X or a plus configuration. And then one of the things you're going to notice, this is a really great example. We bought a bunch of these, and the very first one I took out of the box, we bought them refurbished. My dad was over, and I was going to kind of impress my dad because that's what we do. We're like, hey Dad, check this new toy out I got. And I turn it on, it goes, boop, it flips over on its side, and all the props fall off. He's like, well, that was great. Because that's fantastic. I want 4 of those. So, but if you look here, notice you're going to see a very constant thing. You're going to see a counterclockwise and a clockwise rotation. When you look at your even the little toy things, when I give them to children, the first thing a child's going to do is crash a drone, and then the props are going to pop off, and they're going to put them on all willy-nilly, and they're not going to know that there's a counterclockwise rotor and a clockwise rotor, and the props are pitched specifically for that. And if you put them on incorrectly, it's going to flop over on its side. That's what they do, or it's not going to take off at all. So anytime I see that, the first thing you want to do is check your rotors. So and these are the two basic configurations. So counterclockwise front right, lower right, clockwise upper left, lower right, and usually your X configuration is going to be the most common type. All the plus ones I've seen are home builds. Home builds, people built it themselves. First couple I built, I did plus. Then I was like, okay, every one I've bought has been X. Why am I doing this to myself? I'm making something that's inconsistent. So when we think about drones like these, really what we're looking at is the frame of the drone. This is a little plastic one. I'll take a little bumper off this guy. We have a little plastic frame here, and you can go online and just buy the frames. If you have a 3D printer, go to Thingiverse or whatever, there's tons of files you can download and print your own frames down. One of the big things in the drone world right now is basically racing, doing FPV racing, and they do it with something called tiny loops is the big thing, and they're little tiny drones. Instead of building big drones, you build tiny drones, and you race them, and they're fantastic, and they're fun. If you crash them and destroy them, you just destroyed $40 instead of hundreds. So, and the technology has changed so much, you can actually get a really good FPV drone now for $60 for an entire setup. So it's really cool stuff. Motors, most of the motors that you buy on a standard commercial drone like this, the tiny ones, are going to be brushed motors, which means they're going to wear out. You have, a magneto inside, brushes run around it, electricity shows through it, it spins, the brushes wear out, your motor's trashed. These motors, of course, are brushless, and they should not die in any normal amount of use. Your power distribution, which is going to take the power from your battery, your controller board, to the motors themselves. Your controller itself, which you have two controllers. You're going to have one which is the flight controller, which is on your machine itself, and then your radio controller, receiver, and your transmitter. And then telemetry. In most of the new drones that you buy, they're going to have all kinds of fantastic built-in telemetry. If you want to get really hardcore though with capturing telemetry data, do mapping, things of that nature, either you're going to spend a lot of money on a high-end DJI platform, or you're going to build it yourself still. And that's the way to go. So flight controllers, if you came last year, you're going to notice that none of the flight controllers I had on last year are on here. The flight controller game has totally changed. So from a cheap side of things, we're looking at the racing or freestyle controllers, and these controllers now, like the Flyduino, you can actually buy the controller as the frame. It's actually a PCB board. It's already pinned out. It's already got the holes for the motors. It's the frame and the board all together. So all you do is literally just solder everything together, program the controller, and you're ready to go. It's $45. So, I mean, something like that a year ago would have been in the $100 range. A few years ago, $300, $400. So things keep getting smaller and cheaper. The Lumineer, kind of a similar situation, but it's just a straight up board. But then we get to general use drones. So drones that I just want to have fun flying, or I want to build for specific purposes. If we're just doing photography, the DJI Naza M3 is probably the best one out there. As of last night, these are all from last night. I went online and checked on my prices. $319 for the DJI Naza controller kit. That's just the controller and a GPS, and that's it. So you still got to have all the motors, ESCs, frames, transmitters to do all the builds. If you're wanting to go more pro, then you're wanting to look at the DJI A3. On the low end, it's $900. For the pro kit, I think it was $1699, $1,700, somewhere in there. And then you can buy the upgrade for the basic A3 for like $300. So now you're in that $1,200 range. But still, for the cheapie guys like me, we have the PhreakNIC. The PhreakNIC is awesome, and if you can find a 3DR solo drone out there still, it was one of the first drones to have the PhreakNIC in it. 3DR made this drone. If you went to a Fry's or a micro center or something like that, which we don't have around here, but if you travel as a consultant, you're always in a city where you have those, so you're always rating them for Raspberry Pis and stuff like that anyway. It was a total flop. They built it, it went head to head with the Phantom 3 when it came out. The Phantom 3 was a much easier to use drone from a commercial standpoint, so the Solo went nowhere. It totally flopped, and it was horrible. It was a $1,000 drone, but the beauty of it is now the drones can be had for a few $100s, and they're running PhreakNICs. PhreakNICs are Arduino-based systems, so they're fully hackable. You can have full, for free, you have full ground station software that's available for it, called Mission Planner. So you can download Mission Planner. You can literally pre-program all of your waypoints into the PhreakNIC, tell it, go. You don't fly it. It literally goes to where this GPS point you set, this GPS point you set, this GPS point you set. It will come home and land itself. You don't even have to fly, completely autonomous. And if you wanted to build one yourself, that controller is $204, and that's as of last night, and that's what I suggest for home builds at this point for hack drones. If you want to go on the cheap, the predecessor to the PhreakNIC was just called Quadrocopter. You can buy quadrocopter kits on Amazon for $70 with the GPS, everything with it. I mean, telemetry, 933 megahertz radios, the whole thing. It works with Mission Planner also. The caveat, there's no new firmware for it. The firmware that came out 2 years ago, that's all you got. And no one's picked it up because the actual memory address space on that controller was so small, no one's really doing anything with it because you got really no room to work. Whereas the PhreakNIC has way more memory on it, so you got a lot more room to work with different firmwares, things of that nature. So the next thing when we're looking at drones in general, outside of our controllers, is how we're going to communicate with these. So we have our radios. You'll see some familiar names on here from last year, like Turnigy and FR Sky and Fatuba. But also adding this year the Walkera Devos, and there's a few other ones that are out there. If you hit up Banggood or any of the sites that are out there, there's one. It's a Radio Flyer or Radio Sky. I can't remember. A lot of people are using it now. They're under $100. People are having a lot of good success with them. But FR Sky Tyrannus, their new Tyrannus is under $100 for a non-channel controller. With non-channels, there's really not a lot more you need. I mean, you can do a ton with it, and you can get them for under $100. And they're hackable. There's all kinds of open source firmware for them. Lots of cool stuff there. Mine talks to me. I think I've got Spock on there right now. I've these different voice profiles you can download. A lot of cool stuff.
Is that just telemetry, or is that
that's
an entire drone?
That's just your radio.
Okay.
So that's just your RxTX, your radio transmitter. So, and if you deal with FR Sky or any of the Fatubas, most of them now are using a platform. So it's a module on the back. So literally, you can buy your receiver, and then just plop in the transmitter pack, and you can literally mix and match stuff all day long. So you can buy the cheap orange $30 receiver transmitters and pop them on your drone and set it up, and you're ready to go. So, payloads, cameras, of course, because that's what we all want to do these days. Hacker payloads, Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, things of that nature. Fireworks, we have strapped a Roman candles to our drones and had fun with those. We've all seen the video of the guy with the Glock, probably strapped onto a drone, which makes the FAA and the FBI knock at your door at the same time. Probably not a good call there, and whatever else you can think of. If we're going to run with cameras, GoPros are still the king. If we're going to run separate cameras, SJ cams are always a good, cheap Chinese option to that. And then, of course, the Mobiuses. The Mobiuses are almost GoPro quality, and they're the size of a automobile key fob for your automobile. They're tiny, they're light, they're cheap, they're great. But what you're seeing a lot of your more pro drones doing these days, with Unique, you just have the little button you push here, this comes off, and this is a 4K camera. And then they have a handheld unit, so you can put the camera on your handheld, and then have another gimbal that you can use handheld. So if you're doing stuff like photography for realty, you send this up, you do your house shots, you pop the camera off, you put it in the handheld, so now you've got that same, smooth fluid motion on your handheld. You shoot the inside of the house, so now you have an inside-outside shot. When you're doing your video work, you don't have to deal with the color grading from different cameras and all that kind of stuff. It's just much more seamless from a work standpoint. And I'm a big fan of the Unique products. DJI is good stuff. This is probably the only legit competitor to DJI. They make good hardware. It's still not cheap, but they don't take control of the hardware like DJI does. We'll talk about that a little later. So we've mentioned this, Raspberry Pis, Beagle boards, and if you're on Kickstarter or any of those types of websites, just every day they're coming up with some tinier, smaller, postage stamp sized, Linux-based thing that you can have as GPIO on it that you can play with. So, and I'm always backing those types of projects, and they always have lots of cool ramifications for drones and hack stuff. Now, when we think about drones in general, we start looking at the legal side. Really what we're looking at is model aircraft. So the problem is when we look at model aircraft, the laws are very antiquated. These things are not your typical, nitro-powered planes that we were flying, a decade ago. And because of that, you'll hear park ordinances where they say you can't fly nitro planes. And the reason why is because they were noisy. They were really noisy. So they outlawed them a long time ago. I remember when the drones first started coming on the market with the electric motors, and I would go and try to fly them, like, you can't fly those here. I was like, well, they're quiet. It doesn't matter. It's the same laws apply. You can't fly them. So I was sent on my way by people with big hats and things strapped to their sides, and I'm not going to argue with those people. So the legal side of it is, if you go to this website, this is the actual FAA's website on the rules for model aircraft. And the rules are kind of basic. I mean, they're really, if you're a hobby flyer, you're going to have fly below 400 feet and remain clear of surrounding obstacles. Now, one of the things you're going to start to see, DJI, for example, are putting limits on their software where the aircraft can't fly above 400 feet period. The only way to get around that is to get a professional pilot's license. They have one now that's a stripped down version. And I'll have a slide about that you can get as a drone pilot. So you don't have to go full flight school. It's actually very similar curriculum, but it's way cheaper to do it. Matter of fact, there's tons of boot camps you can do for $400 or $500. Do the test, you're out, you're done. But the main issue is they want to prevent you from doing that, because we all have friends and families. I was talking to the guy that were out drinking on a boat. His buddy pulls out his Phantom 3 Standard he bought at Walmart. He's like, hey, let's fire this up. Next someone's got a gash on their arm, it's not a good time. So we always have those people that want to ruin it for the rest of us. So they're trying to prevent that by limiting the software. Another thing they're doing is, if you're not supposed to fly near airports, certain government installations, so if you're anywhere near those areas, the aircraft won't even take off. If you're flying near that area and you enter that area, it'll actually act as a virtual wall. Your aircraft will literally stop in the air and it won't go any further. If you try to force it, it'll actually force land itself, at least from DJI standard. The Typhoons, they don't care. The unique stuff, you can literally fly it right in the middle of the runway. They don't care, and I like that because it's kind of I just like it. I don't like people controlling my
Not for
stuff.
any reason.
And the really, here's another thing about DJI. DJI, and a lot of people aren't talking about it, they just developed new software and they've given it to all the major law enforcement agencies. When you buy DJI aircraft, if you spend $1,000 on a Phantom Professional, or you buy a Mavic or something like that, that's $1,000. Are you going to register for the warranty on a $1,000 aircraft? Yes, you are, because if anything happens with that, you want to make sure you get your aircraft fixed, replaced, whatever. You probably even sprung for the couple $100, we swap it out, kind of no questions asked warranty that they have. Well, the thing is now they have your aircraft serial number and they know who you are. They now have given the government software that tells them what aircraft are flying by serial number and owner in the area at all times. So if something happens, you try to fly it into Nissan Stadium at a Titans game, they literally know, hey, there's a drone near Nissan Field and it's owned by this Yahoo over here, and they're going to be knocking on your door the next day saying, hey, there's problems here. So they're really starting to garner a lot of control of their aircraft, and also forcing upgrades on the firmware. My daughter's Phantom 3 Standard, it won't even take off right now because the firmware is so old on it. It says, until you update me, I will not allow you to fly. So we're kind of out of a catch-22. Do we want to update it and get all the new features, the new control, or do we want to basically have a brick at this point? So we're going to have to upgrade it because it won't even fly.
Is there no one making software for it?
There is, but it's the same thing. Okay, so we have a $1,000 piece of hardware that I'm going to put someone's hacked together software for. I mean, yes, I mean we're this is a hacker kind of conference. We're all in the same boat here. Yes, we're going to play with that stuff anyway, very gingerly, make sure it's really good tested, but still at the end of the day, because of the cost of the hardware and because of the people that are using it, we're not seeing a whole lot of proliferation. So that's kind of the thing. If you hit up some of the flight boards, join forums. Tons of different forums out there. Lots of people are talking about this. People are basically just saying, we just try to resist upgrading as long as possible, and that's pretty much what everyone does. Sorry?
Are they like ARM?
Yeah, most of them are ARM. Actually, the unique models have a dual thing, especially for using like the Typhoon H. That's a good question. The Typhoon H, for example, uses a ARM processor for the main controller. Then it has an Intel Atom processor for the IntelliSense processor. So basically, all the front-forward sensors are using an Intel Atom processor, and it builds a 3D map real time. You don't even have to have a controller. It has like a Nintendo Wii controller. You can literally go up, send it up, say, follow me, stick the controller in your pocket, and it does full legit obstacle avoidance. It maps every tree, every power line, and with the Atom processor, real time, and it will fly under, over, around. It's really cool to watch. And the really cool thing is, in areas where I've flown it like 3 or 4 times, you can tell it's building better maps. It actually logs the information and it improves the map as it flies the area. So it's really cool stuff. So 400 feet, keep the aircraft within visual line of sight at all times. I can't tell you how many people I see, like when I'm going to Panama City Beach for vacation, they got their drone and it's way out there. I know they can't see it. There's no way it's line of sight. So you got to keep it line of sight at all times. These are the FAA rules for hobbyists. Don't interfere with manned aircraft operations. We've heard 2 stories in the past month of aircraft, including a military helicopter being hit with a drone. Now, that military helicopter had no damage. But still, plastic meets steel. There was no damage. It was not a problem.
Not for the helicopter.
Yeah, not for the helicopter. Now, for dealing with planes that have very thin skins and there can be problems. With that helicopter, there was no problem. Don't fly within 5 miles of an airport unless you contact the control tower. Myself personally, you just don't fly there anyway unless you have the proper license and you've called the FAA and you've requested a permit. So that's what you need to do. Don't fly near people or stadiums. That's a no-brainer as well. And if you do fly near people at all, because we all have these things, make sure you have proper guards. When we're doing the kid track here in a little bit, we'll be using these little cages on these for the demos. And it protects it forward, top, bottom. There's no way it can actually hit somebody and hurt them. So it's very important. Same thing with these. These blades, when they get going, these are almost a foot. They're 11-inch blades, and they will literally cut you down to the bone. They will, when this thing gets going, it's damaged. So if you're going to be anywhere near people, make sure you have prop guards. Go. Don't be careless with your unmanned aircraft. They say you could be fined, but that kind of gets us to another thing, which I think is the next slide, which is registration. How many people bought a drone in the last couple of years and registered their drone? Okay, so there's only 3 of us. That's cool. So if you register your drone, here's the thing with registering your drone with the FAA. You have a FAA registered aircraft. That's the same thing as a Cessna. That's the same thing as any other aircraft flying in the air. You now have a FAA registered. So what does that do from a legal implication? Well, if Bubba shoots your aircraft down with a shotgun because he thinks you were spying on his daughter, he just shot down an FAA registered aircraft. So there's lots of legal stuff that's happened there. And the guy actually came in and sued and said, hey, the prior rules don't work with the current rules. So about middle of the year, early this year, I got an email saying I was going to get a refund from my cost of registering my aircraft because there is no more registration. Registration is done with. If you didn't get the email, you can request a registration and refund. They will refund your money for registering your aircraft. There is no more aircraft registration whatsoever. So that is a done deal. The law is over with. So now what they're really doing is pushing people to get licenses for commercial work. But that's pretty easy to get around because what we do is we don't fly commercially if we're shooting video. We're just charging for editing the video. I'm flying for fun. That's what I'm doing. So there's kind of ways to get around that. So we mentioned why we can't have nice things, and that's why they keep making all these laws and trying to figure it out. And it's different in any country you fly to. Like if you've traveled, if you travel to India, don't even take your drone. It's almost impossible to fly. It's just the laws there are so restrictive. Just leave it at home. And it's like that a lot of places. In Tennessee, for example, state parks. I do a lot of scouting with my daughter, and every year we have this big spring camping event. Every year I want to film the event, and now in Tennessee, that is garnered by the director of that state park. So whoever the director of the park is, you're supposed to ask them if you can fly. They are always going to tell you no. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, so what you do is you bring $50, you find a park ranger, you slide them some money and say, "Could you turn your head, please?" And you fly your drone, shoot your video, and you're done. That part doesn't go into YouTube. Anyway, so flying restricted space, don't fly near aircraft, don't fly near airports, and don't interfere with emergency efforts. There was a large forest fire a few years ago, and guys were flying their drones with forest fire, and they actually had to ground the aircraft, support aircraft, because of the drones in the area. And they actually found the operators. They found each of them, I think it was $15,000, something like that, for interfering with the aircraft.
What are the logistics of, say, you're in a state park or national park and getting an actual filming permit?
It's really just going to well, it's two things. You have to deal with the park rangers, park management themselves.
Okay.
And if you want to override them, go ahead and take that boot camp and file for a permit directly with the FAA.
Okay.
And really what a lot of the rules say is you can't take off and land inside of a state park. The airspace is owned by the FAA. It's not owned by the by the park.
Okay.
So if you can go outside the boundaries of the park, take off, fly in, and still maintain line of sight of your aircraft, you're fine. You know, it's just that launch and land. I find it easier just to look around, see when there's no one around, shoot real quick, land it,
Rogue.
or take some money.
Sure. Yeah.
Go rogue.
Yeah.
So the Part 107 is that certification. These are the links. I'll give this to Ben. He can distribute this or attach it to YouTube, whatever he wants to do. The first link is the actual study guide, and basically it's the same study guide you'd use if you're getting an actual pilot's license. And then all the basic information as far as sample test questions, all that's the link next to it for the Part 107. And that means if you pass your Part 107, you are a pro drone pilot now. You literally can go to the FAA, file for any flight permits, just as you would as a regular pilot. And then you can hand that to the park ranger. I have a permit. And they really can't say anything. Build or buy. So this kind of gets to this point here. The advantages of both. You know, I left this slide in here from last year because nowadays, to be honest, there's no advantage to build an aircraft. Not unless you're really specifically needing a very purpose-built aircraft. It makes no financial sense to build an aircraft. There are just way too many cheap options.
Do they have like open software so that you can program to them?
Well, so you can buy, like I said, a Solo, which is based on the Beagle. They're still out there, and they drop from $1,000 to a couple hundred now, if you can find them. Also, the older-based quadricopter systems, which are open as well. I have a slide on here with last year's price and this year's price on that unit. It's still around $200. So you can buy that guy. It's ready to fly out of the box. Controller, everything is running quadricopter. It's going to have a USB port on the bottom. You can hook it to your laptop, running mission planner, program in a mission from your laptop, flip the switch, and it will be fully autonomous. And that's $200. So it's all Arduino based. So that's one of still the cheapest, easiest way to get into an open platform. And the headers are on the Arduino. When you take it apart, the headers are on there. So if you want to solder in a 933 megahertz radio, you can buy the kit for, I think it's $12 to $15 for the receiver and the transmitter. So you can solder the header on, drop the antenna off the bottom, plug the USB into Mission Planner, and it'll get you 112K baud connection to the aircraft up to 5 kilometers over Mission Planner. So you can literally alter the mission plan live and send it to the aircraft, and you can collect live telemetry data from the aircraft as well. So some cool stuff there for under $250. So where do we buy this stuff? Hobby King is on here. I've been burned by Hobby King a couple of times, had to do some chargebacks. So just use them, but be kind of careful. Banggood is still my big choice. There's other gear sites that are out there now that are selling drones. Just hit up the direct from China sites. It's going to take you 8 weeks to get it, and just wait. And when it comes, have fun. Still, if you have a local hobby store, support those guys. Go visit them. Buy your parts there if you can. They're there to help you. If you got questions, they will help you. That's what they do. They love doing that stuff. And support your store. So as of this morning, the CX20, which I just mentioned, it's a Cheerson CX20, and this is actually a shot of that radio telemetry transmitter I was talking about over there. Last year was $179. It went up this year to $215. So it's $215. It is completely open source, all based on Arduino and Quadrocopter platform. And you have full USB access. You can really plug it up. You can tweak everything you want right there in software. You have it right here. You can do virtual flights based on your parameters. It's really cool stuff. Now let's talk about where everybody is doing right now when we talk about drones. I homeschool my daughter. We're always doing homeschool conventions and stuff like that. And, you know, the things that are constant with the homeschool community is everyone loves Oculus Rift, so everyone's bringing their Oculus rigs to the homeschool conferences, and everyone's doing FPV microcopters now. So literally, you know, they set these things up in these big arena stadium places because there's hundreds of vendors, and they're just flying loops around the place. Strap on their gear, and they're good. For, what is this? It's $37.99 US. You can buy this guy right here.
Angry Bird.
And the Angry, the Ishin E013. To be honest, the Ishi 012 is a stripped down version of this with the header, so you can add your own camera and your own antenna. They're like $15 if you want to go that route. But for $37, this guy's ready to go. The headgear below can be had for about $40 as well. So for under $100, you have a full, ready to go FPV system. Very low latency. I mean, it's awesome. And that headset will work with almost any, even your big boy drones. I mean, if they talk, it's spread spectrum frequency. Literally, you pick the channel, boom. Say search for open channels, it'll find it. Boom, you got live video. That's it. That one's really cool too because it has HDMI on the side, so you can actually output it to a monitor while you're flying, and people can see what you're doing while you're flying. And we destroy those things en masse. So we buy the $15 versions. We just fly them, we smash them, we break them. Oh, the camera still works. We'll stick that on another one, and we come armed with many of them, and they're a blast. So how far we have come, I couldn't have imagined when I first started my drone journey about 8-9 years ago that I could buy a drone like that had FPV, low latency, and I didn't feel bad about destroying it. That for $40 I could buy this thing that's just awesome. You know, it's just, we have come so far. And when you want to look at this guy, the way it flies is just crazy. I mean, you take off from your software, it goes up, it holds its position, and you know, these things are $20. I mean, it's just, they're great. So,
Do you have anything for sale here?
I do not. If your kid pre-registered for the kids stuff, we got about 20 drones we're going to give the kids. We're going to teach them how to do some flying. If you go to Youngster.com, so here's my plug for today. Youngster, these are actually Parrot drones. Parrot is not known for cheapness. These were literally $100, like 9 months ago. If you go to Youngster's website today, they're selling the refurbished ones for $20. And I've ordered a bunch of these. They're all flawless. They're the Parrot Micros.
Parrot Micro.
And they come with cables. So we ordered about 7 of them, and we have been flying the crap out of them, and not a single one has had an issue.
What's the controller? Is it you use your phone?
Use your phone.
Nice.
And you literally have a hand button. You can say hand take off, tap it, you throw it up, and it just takes off. And it does have a sensor on the bottom, so it does know where stuff is at. So you actually have a position, which is cool. So if it comes over the desk, it knows there's something here, so we'll adjust its altitude until it goes over, and it'll drop back down. So it's $20. I mean, it's just. We're going to fly them with the kids a little bit later. We got to charge a bunch of batteries. This one does not have a battery in it, so I apologize.
What's it called? The Parrot what?
It's the Parrot Micro. Just go to Youngster.com and look in the toy section. You'll find it.
Okay, go ahead.
YUGSTER. So this guy right here, we have him in the car. I've got to charge batteries for him until we'll be flying him a little later. This is the unique Breeze. So the Breeze is fantastic. It has a controllable gimbal, shoots 4K video, 1080p stabilized, has optical sensors for optical avoidance on the bottom, also has a radio-based echo sensors on the bottom, and they're $300. It has dual GPS, has the fastest GPS acquisition of any aircraft I've ever owned. It's this big. It fits in your backpack. You fly it with your phone. You send it up. You take selfies of your family at the beach. You shoot video. You say, follow me. It follows you flawlessly. It does the orbits. All the cool things that people want to buy DJI Phantoms for, this thing does it, and it's $300. And it's my plug for cheapy first start drone. If you want to buy the rip off of this, the DJI basically ripped this off to make the Spark. The Spark is cool too. The Spark doesn't require any controlling at all. You don't have to have a phone. You literally put it in your hand, you tap it, it takes off from your hand, you put your hand in front of it, you move this way, the aircraft moves that way, you move this way, the aircraft moves that way, you push it out, it goes out 20 feet, you bracket yourself, that lets it know you want it to take a photo, and then photographs you, etc., etc. You don't have to any controllers whatsoever. It's all hand gestures. If you want to buy a controller, they're like $300. So now you've spent almost as much for a Mavic. Just go buy a Mavic. So that's kind of that. And that's the next screen is the Spark, and that's that guy there. If you want to get a Spark, I'm not going to say not to. I plan on getting one myself, just to have one. Black Friday, all kinds of people are saying these things are going to be like $390 in the Black Friday deals.
What was the one before? What was it called?
Unique Breeze. This is a Unique Typhoon G. So if you want to look at it's YUNEEC, Unique, and it's the Breeze, BREEZE, like a breeze.
So again?
YUNEEC,
Okay.
and breeze, like you're getting a breeze of wind.
All right. Thank you.
At Walmart this morning, they were $299. I looked them up. And the Sparks are $500 at Walmart, but they'll be $400 at Kohl's on Black Friday weekend. I've never went to Kohl's for Black Friday. This year I'll be stopping by Kohl's.
Do you think that one's a better one? mean,
I
you
think
don't
it's
see-
different. It's different.
Okay.
It does different stuff. And like I said, if you're buying it and you're within radio frequency range, I mean Wi-Fi range, with the Breeze and the Spark both. They're both considered Wi-Fi controlled drones. The difference though in the Spark is I can buy a DJI controller for $300. And if I do, I can now get 2 or 3 kilometers range out of the drone. But now I've spent $800, and that's $999. And this folds up. I has a 4K, fully stabilized gimbal. This is the Mavic. The arms fold in. It fits in my backpack. It's this big when it's folded up. There's no reason. It's kind of just, what are you going for there? It has forward obstacle avoidance, bottom obstacle avoidance. It kind of does all that kind of stuff. This is the Typhoon I was mentioning earlier with the Intel RealSense sensors in the front. So the 2 front sensors there are what builds the map with the IntelliSense software. If you've never heard of or played with IntelliSense software, you can download it to your desktop and play with it with your webcam. You can actually build facial maps and do reconstructions and actually watch how IntelliSense actually works from a technology standpoint for free. It's pretty cool technology. When I think of the new Apple iPhone, it's very reminiscent of IntelliSense, the way it builds its face maps. That's the Typhoon H. That guy runs around $1,000 right now. It's come down quite a bit in price. It was about $1,600 last year. So with the IntelliSense rig, it's like $1,300. But you can get it without it for like $1,000. Same camera though. Still, they haven't changed the camera. It's actually a pretty good camera. And you can see it just the same thing. It's got the clippy thing. It just pops off and pops on, so you can use the handheld gimbal. For the last thing though, we're gonna actually look at one of the great things about owning a drone. If you own a drone, If you own a drone, you may have lost a drone. And that's probably the worst thing to do when you own drones. So this is a video I'm going to show up if it comes up. It's not showing up on the screen here, so let me kill this presentation. That's probably what's doing it. Yeah. So we own Phantom Pros at the house, Phantom Standards. We got lots of Phantoms. We like the Phantoms. They're still great aircraft. This is a Phantom 3 Standard, and I had just gotten this thing. Had maybe a week. Just started to play with it, and a friend of mine's like, "Hey, let's check some stuff out." So we go to his house, and we're gonna fly it. So he lives right a corner from me, literally 1 street over. So we're shooting some video here. It's cool that you see all the bugs, even that high up, swarming the camera. I was like, what is up with that?
Look how steady it is.
Oh, it's amazingly steady. The gimbal.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Wow.
The gimbal and the DJI products are fantastic. Same here. This gimbal is fantastic also.
That's. I thought the video was frozen there for a moment. I was like, oh, good. Buffering. Nice.
Yeah, I live up by the lake. So if you're familiar with the Hermitage, Tennessee area, Saundersville Road, that's where I'm at.
And is that a GoPro on there or?
No, that's the 2K stock DJI camera that comes on the DJI products for the standard. And that's what Walmart's going to be selling if you go to Walmart and get the standard. The difference between the standard and the Pro is standard's Wi-Fi. Everything's the controller communicates to your iPad or your device over Wi-Fi to the aircraft. The Pro models use something called LightBridge, which is an actual radio technology, and you can see what the aircraft sees live and control it up to 5 kilometers.
I can't believe how steady that is.
So my friend asked me though, he says, "Hey, doesn't it have that come home feature? Let's see that." Now, so we're
Oh.
so problem is it doesn't know where home's at.
Oh.
So I just hit the button and it's like, "Hey, I'm gonna fly this way." So I'm like, "What are you doing?" And I'm trying to get control of it, and it's still flying away. The rotors, you see the prop watch there, is me trying to get control of it. And it's heading towards Saundersville Road.
Is that where you live?
I live out near Saundersville Road, yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to your house or?
No. The thing is, it kept saying it was at my house. Going to the flight software and saying, "Where are you at right now? Live data." I'm at your driveway. It wasn't at my driveway.
Yeah.
So we keep going through this, and I just keep trying to get control of it. And like I said, because it's Wi-Fi range, I don't have much time, and I'm out of range. So from that point forward, it's just doing whatever the heck it wants to do. Now, if this was a Pro model and I had LightBridge, I have 5 kilometers I could have played with here, but I don't. I have Wi-Fi range. So this brings me to the next thing. As you're playing with drones that are like this, with cameras that have micro SD cards, make a little file on your micro SD card that says, "If found, read me." Have your personal info, your phone number, your email, so they can contact you. And just say, "Hey, if you found this, it's probably in pieces. I just want to see what the video looks like. I want to see what happened." And this one took us 9 months to get back. I never thought we'd get it back. I just thought it was gone. And this guy shows up at the door with this thing covered in muck. It had been snowed on, rained on, everything else. There was spotters inside of it. And when I took it apart to clean it up, the battery was fried, all that kind of stuff. But we cleaned it up, and the IMU, which is the internal magnetic compass unit, had freaked out, is what happened. It totally had no clue what was going on. I recalibrated it, put a new battery in it, and it took off and flew no problem at all. And my daughter was like, "You've just bought like 6 drones in the past 9 months, so can I have this one?" So I'm like, "Sure." So we cleaned it up and put purple stickers on it, and it's hers. So, but as you see, it just keeps on flying away, away.
To the airport.
The video is beautiful. I was like, "This thing's shooting fantastic video." As the gentleman in the front here said, it's stable, it's gorgeous,
Yeah.
and it just keeps flying away. And it does this for a while. The battery
Watch
on
it crash.
The battery is 10 minutes roughly on these things, and I'm not gonna. We're about a little over halfway through. So the thing with DJI products, when they get a low battery, they go into a self-landing mode to try to land themselves. As you see, we're coming up on a lot of wooded area right here.
And did you have that file on it? Is that how it is?
Yeah, he returned the aircraft intact, and the micro SD card was there. He told me he read the card, came, and they dropped it off. I never even met him. My daughter met him at the door. I was downstairs working, and so some guy came. I'm like, "Well, did you thank him? Did you give him $50? Something?" I mean, no.
Not my allowance.
Not my allowance. There you go. So that's that.
So, and you said that the thing, despite the fact it was covered in mud and everything, it flies again?
Oh yeah, it was perfect. We cleaned it up. We took
Wow.
it apart, cleaned it, put a new battery in it. We're talking, these batteries are $100 a piece, so I was kind of mad at the battery was fried.
Yeah.
Oh well, I got the aircraft back. I'm just gonna skip a little bit here. So it just keeps on flying away.
Of course, you're going, no!
Well, I didn't know where it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We're already in a car driving around trying to listen.
If you find it.
We were literally driving around listening for it. It was already so far gone, there's no way we would have found it. It wasn't even the right direction we were looking for. I thought it was heading one direction, it was heading this direction. So, because I was focusing on the software telling me where it was at, and it just lied to me. So, if you buy a Phantom 3 standard, take off, set your home point, land it. Take off again, set your home point again. Do it twice. And you should not have this problem.
Setting itself down?
Yeah, so it's saying, hey, I'm out of battery. To fly anyway. Getting low, so it's auto landing now. And I was looking at this video, I was like, man, it's doing a great job. It's missing all the trees. It's coming down pretty
Beautiful
nice.
video despite the fact you're
Yeah. Does it try to avoid the trees?
No, this is doesn't have obstacle avoidance.
Oh, nice video though. Wow. That's cool.
And we got
There
brakes.
we go.
Now the thing is, and I think it came down so low is why I was completely attacked. Now the next thing that I had here, because this is going to cut off pretty soon, was it didn't have enough power to run the props and everything, but it had enough power to record 9.5 hours of this.
You see any animals or anything going on?
Nothing. So I didn't watch all. I mean, I scrubbed through it to kind of see, but that was. He said they were out there hunting and
Found it.
so it was like sweet.
Nice.
So guys, that's the end of my presentation. Have you any questions or anything?
Is that the same one that, I guess in one of your previous talks you said you had one away?
Oh no, that was actually the open source model, and that one made me cry more because it was way more money back then. I mean, the open source model when I first bought it was like $700, and I had a GoPro attached to it and a gimbal. All that stuff was separate back then. You bought a gimbal to attach to your aircraft. You had to go to the Audro controller, wire everything up, tune it, make sure it all worked. I paid like $300 for the gimbal. Then I had a GoPro attached to it, and the GPS failed in it, and it took off over the lake. I watched it go away, like over the lake. And I cried. I died inside.
Have you had any chance to experience the Autel X-Star Premium or any? Because I've been looking at.
I haven't been looked at any of the Autel stuff.
It looks really good. I've been considering earlier this year getting a Mavic Pro, but I decided to wait and see because drones were changing very much. And then recently I came across the Autel line, and I was really very impressed with what I saw. It's about the size of a DJI compared to a Phantom 4. It does just about everything a Phantom 4 does, except it costs $400 less. It has a detachable gimbal, so you can put on it. You can change that out if you want. It has the same thing. It has following waypoints. The controller has, in addition to having the phone mount, it has its own cool LCD screen on it. You can get distance, angle, camera, and all sorts of information too if your phone link fails.
That's pretty awesome. Walkera is making some cool stuff
It's
too.
very highly rated. I haven't been able to find anything negative. They say, I mean, for whatever advantage that DJI gives you, it isn't worth the extra $100.
I've seen the Autel. I've seen a lot of good stuff about the Walkera stuff. There's like you said, there's just so many people coming into the market right now. I'm really looking forward to the Consumer Electronics Show this year and see what pops up at CES. That's really going to kind of let me know what's going on out there. For right now, from a warranty standpoint, the Unique guys have been awesome. I mean, when I bought my Typhoon, the day it shipped, it had a bad battery, and they literally sent me 2 batteries for free. And those are $100 batteries too. So I mean, it's just the Unique guys have been very good to me from a warranty standpoint. DJI, unless you ponied up for that little service plan, don't expect a lot of help. I mean, it's just the way they are. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Thanks. You got kids?